Seeing none. Item E, approval of our minutes from March 21st, 2017. They're attached to the packet. Changes, additions, and if not, a motion.
A motion to approve?
Yeah.
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Alan abstaining, he wasn't here. Awesome. Item F1, annual update from Cobblestone Farm. We're welcoming Jessica Black tonight. Welcome.
Thank you. All right. I know some of you. Hi, Lauren. I didn't realize you were on PAC. My name is Jessica Black. I've been with the City of Ann Arbor Parks unit for 15 years in July. I started at Cobblestone Farm, managed a farmer's market for 4 years, and then came back to Cobblestone Farm in 2008, and I've been there ever since. So today I'm going to talk about what I do in my capacity as a recreation supervisor and all the lovely things we do over at Cobblestone Farm. So one of the things we do at my office is we issue all parks permits. And so the slide I'm showing you is all the permits we've issued in 2014, 15, and 16. Pretty gradual increase. The uses talks about a permit may be, one permit may have more than one use. So a person may rent one shelter at Burns Park, but use it 3 times. And so that's why you'll see that the uses are sometimes double almost the number of permits. Park permits can be used for any kind of activity, from a baby shower, a birthday party, picnic at Gallup. It's really small events, 25 and under. Sometimes it can be up to 75 if it's just a low impact on the park. If it's like a University of Michigan department getting together for an annual picnic, that's just a simple park permit. We'd issue those nonstop, as you see by the numbers. The pavilions that we rent most frequently are or as we look at the slide, in the upper left-hand corner is Southeast area. Upper right-hand corner is the Fast Shelter at Gallup. That's the newest one we have. It's from last year, so the grass hadn't grown in yet. The Greek Revival Shelter at Island. It's very popular for weddings. I would think that Island is most popular to Gallup, rented kind of starting on January 2nd. For weddings, people call right away to get that shelter reserved for their ceremony. Lots of times people have the Gandy dancer reserved for their reception, so they'll want to use that space for their ceremony. And the other shelter in the lower right-hand corner is Olson Park. This year, we aren't renting any shelters at Gallup due to the playground construction. We had some issues last year with the border-to-border trail construction and having access on the weekends for the events, so we made a decision to not rent the shelters, although they're still available for use. But what that's done for us is allowed the community to realize that we have a number of other parks than just Gallup Park, right? It's the most popular park. It's on the river. It has a lot of great features, but people are realizing that Southeast area, Olson, Island, that they're really fantastic parks and available for use with really great amenities at them. Special events. So these are a little different because they have a larger impact on the park and have some liability concerns with them. What we see for a special event is there's some conversation we have about the group. Are you going to have amplified music? Are you having alcohol? Are you promoting this to the public? Is anyone invited to come, or is it just a guest only? Is it a ticketed event? Questions we ask when they first call to actually apply for just get a regular permit. Sometimes it triggers a special event component. So we do not as many special events, but some special events are repeats. So for instance, at the farmers market, the Sunday artisan market is a special event. And so that takes place on Sundays, April through December. That's considered a special event for us. It goes through the special event process. That process involves a bunch of different departments reviewing the application and just making sure that there's no conflicts, that the insurance is in line with what the city requires. Any parking tickets have been paid. Usually that's a issue for folks they forget about. So we have about 70 to 75 of those every year. It's a pretty fun time. So I'm going to highlight a couple events we had last year. This event is called Falling Up and Getting Down. It was a partnership we had with the University Musical Society and the Friends of the Skate Park. So it was for their third annual skate park anniversary celebration. The University Musical Society, partnered with the skate park and had this really fantastic event where there you can see that we put a stage kind of in the middle of the skate park, which was wild. I never thought we could put a stage there, but we did. There was a band, Jason Moran, a famous world-renowned jazz artist, and his band, the Bandwagon, came and performed all day. It was fantastic weather. The slide before on the right-hand side shows the crowd around. Big famous skaters, not Tony Hawk famous, but Andy McDonald famous, and a couple others were there. Free to the public, fantastic event. Another one we had last year for the first time was a lacrosse tournament called the Lax House Games. So at Fuller Park, the group came to us because Mitchell through the university didn't have enough fields and had some regulations that didn't allow them to sell things, didn't allow music. The university was a little more difficult to work with, had some constraints that they needed for their activities. They needed to come to Fuller. So we opened up Fuller, they rented the park, all the fields, 4 of the fields, and had about, I think they said anywhere from 750 to 1,000 kids, parents, spectators, and coaches throughout that park. It was kind of crazy, but it worked really well. We didn't have any injuries, no EMS called. Probably the worst thing were some kids making a bad choice in a corner of the park somewhere, but it was fine. It was actually a really fantastic event. They're coming back this June again. They're excited to be here. I also do sports field rentals, so those are a little different than just general parks and park space or special events. Sports fields are predominantly at Allmendinger, Fuller, Olson, Riverside, Southeast, and Virginia. You'll see the numbers there. The Fuller and Olson are the athletic fields that some of you Julie probably remembers. The investment we made in 2008 or 7-8, opened them in 9 and 10 into Fuller and Olson to bring them up to really high level quality athletic fields that we can bring in really fantastic teams in. We charge a premium price for those fields, but clubs want to be on them and pay the price to be there. Allmendinger, Southeast, Virginia, and Riverside aren't nearly as nice. However, they give an opportunity for other social clubs to come in and provide opportunities for the public to play that maybe Rec and Ed doesn't have, whatever it may be. So those are the biggest ones we rent with regards to sports activities. And then there's Cobblestone Farm, which is sort of our gem for rentals and events, private events most often. Again, you see the numbers, super busy at Cobblestone, booked 18 months in advance, like to the date, midnight, emails come in. You, your aunt, your mom, your grandma, your sisters, your bridal party, they're all emailing, requesting on behalf of you for that one date, 18 months out, especially if it's a away game on a fall day, on a fall Saturday especially. Those are really, really popular. Again, Cobblestone Farm, gorgeous venue. You can see the new siding, which I think I talk about, in the next slide. So the old barn, beautiful as it was. The middle picture shows Tyvek around the barn, keeping out those lovely red squirrels that had run amok on the inside of the siding. And then the new siding, which is fantastic. No more rain coming in, no more critters living in the walls. It's just really gorgeous. We've only had, we had one bride that was devastated. Her entire event was built around the exterior color of the barn, apparently. So she was really upset about the siding being a different color. And then another bride that didn't like it, but got over it, realized that it was for the better for everybody. So for the most part, people think it's great, so we don't have too many complaints. Cobblestone has become really popular with repeat users. So I listed some of the companies that come. The U of M Financial Aid and Ann Arbor Ski Club are 2 that have been coming since I started. Ski Club was there before I even started in 2002. They come every year, rent the space, it's great. Zingerman's rents our space, which is always interesting since they have their own barn, but they rent ours because we're in the city. And then a lot of area families use it, so much so that people will have their bat or bar mitzvahs and then rent it again for their wedding later in life. And then the last thing we do is the customer service office, which is always fun. We kind of field all the calls that people get about the parks, so any kind of questions they might have about what's going on. Is the grass mowed? Is the snow going to be removed? The tree fell, the leaves are down, whatever the question is. There's a bird in the road, whatever. I mean, it runs the gamut. It's every day's different. There I have myself and another employee, Janet Farrell, who's a full-time staff, and then we hire a bunch of seasonal part-time employees each season, starting right about now, going through the end of the year. Again, we do all the registrations. We have a new system, which Josh may have shared with you, Rec One. It's going a lot. It's fantastic. It's eliminated the phone calls with complications and frustrations for registering, so we're really happy with that. It's a busy office. When it's slow, it's really slow, but that's usually only for about November, and then it picks right back up again. And that's all. That's all I have. Josh told me to be quick.
Questions? I've got one. So the, back on, you don't have to go back, slide 4, you said there were about 72 special events, but it sounded like about half of those were the Sunday. I'm just trying to get a sense of how many like one-off events that there are. So if there were 72, but it sounds like maybe 30 or 40 of them are the Sunday market?
No, so the uses are the difference. So it's each
Right there.
individual.
Right, no, back, there you go. So you
Yep.
had 72 events, but,
With 359 or 436 uses. So it's, the Sunday market would be one event,
right?
and then the use, so it would be however many.
36 weeks.
Yeah, that's the
Oh,
use.
okay, so that helps. That's a very different number.
Right.
Perfect. I
Okay.
just wanted to make sure I was understanding it right, and clearly I wasn't.
On your last slide, there was scholarships. Could you talk about that?
Oh, yeah, yep, I'm sorry, brushed right over that. So we issue the scholarship program out of my office. There's a couple of ways that it's done. One, we being Parks, will accept a scholarship if the recipient has one from the Ann Arbor Public Schools Rec and Ed Department. However, they must live in the city of Ann Arbor. That's a little tricky because a lot of people go to Ann Arbor schools and live in a township. So as long as they live in the city, we'll accept their letter, but it has to be the letter from, or the scholarship for programs and not just for free lunch, because there's another variance to that. I also have a working relationship with Avalon Housing. So if they have residents that live in the city in one of their properties, they have a streamlined application process to get a quicker scholarship approval.
So it would be like a scholarship, say if someone wanted, like an
Oh.
Avalon family wanted to have a graduation party at one of the facilities, or?
So at the present time, the scholarships aren't used for any kind of park rental program.
Okay, what are
They're
they?
used for activities. And
Okay.
so when someone receives a scholarship or is approved for a scholarship, they automatically receive a summer pool pass, every
Okay.
member in the family.
Great.
And a skating pass, so every member in the family receives a skating pass as well. Depending on the level, if they have 100% or 50%, they then get also 3 uses per spring-summer brochure and fall-winter brochure. So in the spring and summer, if they wanted to send, if I had a scholarship and I had 2 children, each of my 2 children could go to day camp, for instance, for $10 a week for 3 weeks. Those would be the
Wow.
3 uses they had. If I didn't need to send them to day camp, I didn't want to do that. I instead wanted to enroll them in, say, swimming lessons for 2 sessions and then the swim tube for the summer. Those could be the 3 uses I had.
Great.
And then in the fall and winter, you can do skating lessons, whatever kind of activities are listed in our brochure. That 100%, the fees again are just, day camp has a $10 a week fee. If you have 50%, you're just going to pay 50% of the fees. Anyone 18 and older in the house pays no matter what, or the 100% pays a $5 per program cost.
That's great.
Yeah, it's a really fantastic program. Anything else? Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving on. Item G, new business, G1, a resolution to approve a contract with Grunwell Cashero Company to repair and restore the exterior finish of the Fuller Park pool structures. Amy Curris. this a surprise?
Yeah,
Has your
so-
name here.
Right, no, I just, so these are, the pool structures have a stucco surfacing on them. They were constructed back in the 70s, I believe, and then there was a major renovation in the 90s, and so there was a building taken out, another put in, and at that point, to make all of the surfaces uniform, there's a stucco-like surfacing, and that's now been in place for about 25 years or so, and there's a lot of cracking and stuff. So this is a bid to, or a contract to repair the surfacing and paint all of the buildings.
Questions for staff?
I have a question. When will it take place?
So it is getting a late start. So this is scheduled to go to city council in the first week of May. And then we realize that they're going to be working until the pool is open and beyond. So what we've done is talked with the contractor about how they would phase the work so that they're going to do the work that's in the most public part of the pool first. And then the areas like in the back where there's less public movement, then those will be done later.
There's a pretty broad spread in the bid that we got back. I don't know if you have any insight on that. It was like 30,000 between the.
And that's actually not, yeah, I mean, I never know with these, we try to make them as uniform as possible. Sometimes it depends on whether a general contractor has subcontractors that are actually doing the work, or they're self-performing, and, you know, so there's a lot of variables into how bids come in. It's not unusual to have a widespread, though.
Have we worked with this particular?
I have not, no, personally, but, I mean, they're a reputable company.
Other questions? Discussion, a motion? There's a draft resolution attached. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions. Thank you, Amy, but don't go anywhere. Unfinished business. Gallup Playground update.
So this is exciting. The contractor has broken ground at the park. The long-term schedule, this is the schedule. I can't even read it, it's so small, but the long-term schedule is that the entire project would be done by the end of July, barring bad weather and other hiccups. There usually are some. They started a few weeks ago by putting up fencing around the site, doing some shoreline clearing, which is going to then be replanted with native shoreline or native grasses. At this point, they're working on removing the existing pathways through the area. I put out some signs because I know people are not happy about the fact that they can't do the loop, but the first thing they're going to do is replace the main pathway that goes to make that loop, so it should only be closed for a couple of weeks. And then they'll close off the rest of the construction site and start working on all of the grading and putting in the well and that kind of thing. The actual playground equipment is slated to start or to be delivered and be put in at the beginning of June, and then from there they'll be putting in the surfacing and all of the landscaping. So it's going to be a long, involved project. I'm meeting monthly with Rotary. Now we're going to start meeting at the site so that we can actually see the construction going on, and yeah, I'm excited about it. Yeah.
Questions?
Oh, I forgot. So Friday,
She's anticipating.
Friday at 11, we're having a groundbreaking little ceremony, even though they've started already. So we've put out a couple of press releases, and it's mainly a photo opportunity and get the word out with the Rotary. So we'll have at least one little gold shovel, and the mayor and 2 council people are invited, so from the ward. And
It's kind of like fake news, though, right? Go ahead.
That was kind of,
Right.
my question was about a groundbreaking, but will there be sort of like a grand opening
Yeah, it-
celebration that PAC would be invited to, or a ribbon cutting, or?
yeah,
something
so
like
that's
that?
already, the date is set for September 17th. We wanted to make sure that the project was actually going to be done, and maybe a little bit of grass growing and that kind of thing. So yes, that's already set.
Awesome. Thank you, Amy. Item I, commission proposed business. First up, I-1 is a resolution to recommend approval of fiscal year 2018 fee adjustments for Parks and Rec Services. Josh?
Step
Oh,
around.
you're going to step around?
I mean, unless you just want to approve, and then.
No.
I'd be more than happy to
I
do
thought
that.
you would have just done it right from your...
I don't know how to do, I got a presentation.
Oh,
We can just go to the approval.
No, 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 no.
Sorry, I'm a little slow today and a little bit under the weather, but thank you. It's an opportunity to go over a quick presentation about the budget process that we, staff and PAC members have been working through over the last few months. It's going to be kind of a short presentation with the opportunity to ask questions afterwards. So, the staff have been working diligently on the budget presentation since about December. Each month, staff meet with Colin and I and talk about their budget and review where they're at. So it's an ongoing process, but for this new cycle, started in December, in which staff reviewed each line item, the history, to develop trends and look at recommendations for their line items for the upcoming year. And in doing that, it allowed us to have a much more appropriate budget and realistic numbers to work with. That result of the work was the budget impact that got sent out to you guys a few weeks ago. From that point, staff met with Paige and Bob and the PAC Finance and Budget Subcommittee to review that, to get their feedback before sending it up to Finance and leadership there. At that point, it actually, I think, was presented last night by the administrator to council. We will talk today about getting a recommendation from you guys to approve the budget. And then on May 1st, there will be a public hearing about the fees. And May 15th, City Council will consider the proposed budgets and make us approve that, hopefully at that point. There are two primary, as a review, two primary funding sources for parks. One is the general fund. The general funds really are daily operations, essential services, the fees that we bring in from programming, as well as from the park and public services, public spaces maintenance, the mowing, snow removal, and utilities. This year, the city administrator asked all city departments to look at a 2% cut to see that we're doing things efficiently. That 2% is driven to the general fund only. It is not looked at the millage, which is the second part of our funding, which handles a lot of the capital projects, the planning, parks, forestry, much of the maintenance, as well as our natural area preservation and volunteer or give programs are paid for out of those as well. On the next slide, this is talking about the proposed budget for just the Parks and Recreation General Fund items. What you'll kind of see there is 2017 proposed budget for 18 and 19. For both the revenue and expense, kind of the trend is to slightly increase each year in hopes to improve programming and to the cost of living and those type of expenses that will go up with salaries and staffing and the cost of doing business. I'm going to bring up Matt Warba, who is going to speak kind of quickly about the parks and public space maintenance side of things. Did I get the name right? Parks and public space maintenance? Yeah, Matt Warba. You got Matt Warba. Good.
Hello, everyone. I'm Matt Warba. I'm one of the assistant managers at Wheeler Service Center and Public Works. So just wanted to have a brief conversation about the maintenance side of the equation. So is this our slide?
Now, this is your general fund.
Okay. This is our general fund portion of the budget. Revenues, we don't really have a lot of revenues. One thing we do have in there is maintenance of the softball fields. So if Rec and Ed books a field and they want grooming outside of their programming, we collect a fee for that. We also collect a fee for any lighting requests that they have. It's a nominal fee, but we do try and cover some of our costs there. So on the expense side of the budget, as Josh mentioned in the slide previously, the things that we charge out of the general fund or to the general fund are snow removal on Park Pass. We do snow removal on all of the rec facility lots, and then mowing of the park spaces. And mowing is primarily with the large 16-foot mowers. That's what we consider mowing. Trimming is a different animal, and we'll deal with that when we get to the millage side of the equation. Utilities for ball field lighting, shelters, water, electricity, those types of things are borne out of the general fund. And then we also have, as I'm sure you can see in the budget, some legacy costs of retirees that have retired from that fund. So you'll see that captured in there as well. So, on to the millage side of the equation. As we prepare the two-year budget, we work collaboratively with the park side of the equation, and their budget is driven primarily from the CIP. They control the capital side of the equation. Our group is responsible for the maintenance side of the equation. And we have the ability to shift those dollars so that if we have a higher need in capital, we can shift resources to that, or if we have a higher maintenance requirement, we can shift the dollar amount within the confines of the millage or the language of the millage. I think we are normally around 80% for maintenance and 20% for capital. It varies from time to time. I think currently we're at 78% maintenance. But again, we have the ability to shift dollars based on where the need is across the system. Some things that we are able to charge to the millage or the activities that take place there: athletic field maintenance, rec facility maintenance and repair. Just had a picture of the siding at the barn. We have a very talented group of individuals that work for Parks and Public Space Maintenance, so it was more economical for us to tackle that than to contract that work out. So our group took care of replacing the siding on the barn, and I think they did an outstanding job as well. Some of the other things that we do playground inspections and repairs. So we are inspecting playgrounds currently 2 times annually, which our goal was to do them 1 time a year. So I think we're ahead of the curve there, and we're looking to improve upon that as well. On the forestry side of the parks millage, they're responsible for all the trees within the park space. So part of forestry's funding comes out of stormwater, part of it comes out of the park millage. So they're responsible for the larger trees within the park system. The Park and Public Space Maintenance Group will do things like brush removal and small tree-related issues, but forestry goes in and takes care of the larger items. We do shelter maintenance across the system. We're also responsible for any park amenity that you might see: benches, drinking fountains, picnic tables, shelter renovation and maintenance. And we also do the path maintenance across the system. I think currently we have about 70 or 57 miles of multi-use path throughout the park system. We do minor repairs to those, cold patch and take out sections that can be repaired, and then we also do winter maintenance on those. And then game court maintenance, replacing basketball hoops, nets, backboards, things like that. And then all signage across the park system. Our group is responsible for that as well. So that's kind of a synopsis of the work that we do, and I think to kind of address the funding component. So if anybody has any questions for me at this time, be happy to answer them.
I do. I'm kind of curious about safety matters, things that that are identified. You talked about playground inspections, things like that, and also, I suppose, you know, let's say dangerous trees or whatever, things that are safety-related issues. How do you handle that as a process?
Well, the playground inspections, as I said, we're doing at a minimum of 2 inspections annually. If somebody reports an issue to us, if it's a safety-related issue, we're going to address that within 24 hours. Forestry has gone out around the most populous parks that we have and made sure that all the trees are trimmed. We don't have any dead wood in the trees. So, you know, where we've got the majority of people congregating, we're really focusing on those areas to make sure that we don't have any safety issues out there. People have the ability of putting in an A2 fix-it request. If they spot something across the system, they can report it to us. And then, for example, if we've got somebody that's out mowing in a park, the expectation is if they see a bench or something that's posing a hazard, they'll contact their supervisor and we'll address it in a timely fashion.
Okay, yeah. And do you get any feedback from, I don't know, let's say, I assume there's insurers that may have a stake in the safety of our parks and things like that?
We do have periodic reviews from Highland. They're our third-party administrator. So they've come out and taken a look across the system, and they've spoken to things like signage. Do we have adequate signing? Is it inconsistent? Does it cover us from a liability standpoint? They also made recommendations on things like playground inspections, so we weren't quite up to speed on that couple of years ago, so we focused our efforts, we made it one of our goals organizationally, to say that we're going to commit to doing this, and we've done that. We have CityWorks as our record-keeping system, so each month, or every 6 months, we have a work order that's generated that said, all right, when we're doing a playground inspection, these are the types of items that we need to make sure that we've identified. And we go through that checklist and mark off anything that's deficient, or if we need to watch it, or if it needs to be replaced immediately. And I'll just point out one thing on the playground side of the equation, and I know it's a frustration, and I'm sure on occasion you guys get feedback from residents about it. If we have a component of a playground that goes out of service, we'll remove it, we'll board it off, and oftentimes we have to wait until that manufacturer has a run of that slide or that amenity before we can even get it in our hands. So I think there's oftentimes a lag between when we take something out of service and when it actually gets produced and shipped to us, so then we can go out and make the installation or make the repair at that point. So just a little side note on the playground side of it.
Thanks.
Anyone else? There is more from Josh?
Yeah, just a few more things.
Yeah, no.
So as mentioned, you'll see that the natural area preservation expenses do go up over the next proposed to go up the next 2 years. And again, that's because the millage, it's paid for by millage, and it really has to do with us continuing to utilize more volunteers, put those programs into play on a continuing basis. So that's where you're seeing more of those expenses coming from. So just kind of some overview of it. After we've put all the numbers together, we're proposing an increase of general fund revenue of about $288,000. A lot of that comes, again, from the work that was done by staff and identifying what the revenues will really look at. In areas like Fuller Day Camp, that has historically been at about a $45,000 budget. The last few years, they've been getting up around $80,000. So putting those realistic numbers into play. And obviously, the liveries continue to be very successful. And so that's how those numbers kind of came. There are some programs, like the livery camps, that are full. And at this point, we're continuing to reach that capacity, and that's where we're looking at it for there. And again, Bureau Ice Rink is another one where we're not seeing any increases because they're kind of at the point where they're at. And at this point, we didn't look to raise any fees in some of these programs and continue to do the work that was needed. Again, this was really driven by the historical nature and the trends. There were few fee adjustments really at Cobblestone to get us in line with what we're really doing on a regular basis. Cobblestone and the park space rentals. And again, they continue to keep us affordable and able to be used. And other increases is just the fact that we are looking at Fuller to increase, to stay open for a couple more weeks. Some things that are driven by members and residents for our use. On the expense side, we continue to focus the majority of our expense on providing great customer service. Staffing is where we're really focused on. One of the biggest savings that we had to be more efficient is there's been a vacant position at the golf courses for the last 2 years. That position was removed because it was made unnecessary by the work that is being done by that team. And in all reality, Leslie and Huron Hills are looking very beautiful. There's more consistency between that as opposed to having two superintendents. One superintendent, both sides is really helpful with that. And then there's just some expenses that are going to go up, water and sewer, salaries, those type of things will continue to move up. But as you see, we are raising revenue by almost $300,000 and looking to raise expenses by just about $83,000. So investment well made. And we will continue to look at capital projects that will improve our infrastructure, our aging facilities, making sure that people can come to our parks and use the facilities that we have, and that's going to be the focus for the next 2 years. And in summary, we continue to see good use, greater use in our parks and facilities, and that's been a good trend since Colin took over just over about 10 years ago, and continuing to grow with quality programming, offering community what they need. and maintaining it at the level that is good, which all will lead to greater use in the future. So that's my presentation.
Questions for staff?
So, looking at the, because as I understand it, we're gonna be asked to approve the increase in fees.
Yes.
Correct? So that's
Yes.
kind of where my questions are gonna focus.
Okay.
Because the resolution itself says that we go through this process annually, and we look at what we're charging and make some sort of analysis. Then if you look at the fees that we're talking about updating now, it looks like a lot of them have been in place for 9 years, some a little bit less than that. But I guess I'm just kind of curious as to what kind of motivates these now.
I think that we evaluate all the fees on, as you said, on an annual basis. There are multiple fees that we looked at during this process that we considered for updating. As I mentioned, the livery operation, livery camps are ones that are full. And in a lot of places, you have a full camp, you have the opportunity to increase in that. Our goal is to really get usage. And so I think we identify the ones that are most out of whack, for lack of a better term, with where we're at with things like that. Cobblestone is really one of the places that we haven't done increases because we've kind of adjusted, about 4 years ago, we already adjusted those the way that we did it, but we haven't increased the fees because we've been continuing to try to get quality service, quality programming from there. And Derek's going to say something now.
Yeah, I would too, because I was involved with part of this discussion prior to Colin leaving. I'm Derek Delacorte, I'm the Community Services Advisor. One of the things we asked Finance to look at this year, even prior to any discussion or cuts or anything, was to reevaluate all our fees within the service area on a 3 or 5 year weighted average and get some recommendations from Finance on where we are undercharging and where we're not making the right decision as far as revenue. So some of that weighed into it, as well as the revenue changes were based on those weighted averages as well. So it was a combination of our request and then reevaluating the fees since they haven't been looked at in 9 years, and then also some advice from Finance as well.
Other questions?
Well, for the most part, I don't have any problem with these fee increases, but I have one comment and I think 2 questions. Just on the Cobblestone Farm thing, I personally feel it's a little misleading to have comparisons of all these private places, because really the parks are about a public good. So I understand the intent of that, but I would prefer it if the comparison locations were public locations. 2 questions. One is, I have no idea who goes to the bridge games, but I come into contact with a lot of seniors on fixed income, so if I'm guessing that a lot of these people are seniors, I just wonder about the impact of that. So that's one question. And then the other question is whether there is a plan to put this on some kind of cycle where it gets looked at every 3 or 5 years or something.
And we'll start with what on the cycle specific.
Like fees, because some of these say it was last done in 2013, some say 2010, some say 2008, some say 2006. I don't know when they were last evaluated. Like, were they evaluated every 3 years but no changes were made, or, you know what I'm saying?
I think and I'll answer the last question first.
Sure.
I've only been here a year, but I've asked some of the same questions since I've been here as well, is how often do we do that? We look at them annually. Obviously, as more time goes by, since a fee's been changed, the more likelihood is we're gonna scrutinize it harder and harder to make sure it's consistent with the market and other like facilities or other like services that communities or the private sector provides. But we do review them every year and make a determination of whether it's time or appropriate to make a decision. Some of those fees adjust quicker than others, depending on the service or the facility, and some of them stay consistent longer. So regardless of whether we look at them annually or not, there'll be differences in the timeframes in which we recommended changes to them. Some may be every year, some may be every 5 years, some may be at a longer schedule. But we do an evaluation every year.
Other questions?
What's the bridge?
Oh, the bridge,
Bridge and
and
seniors,
the bridge increase is directly tied to, we utilize ACBL for the person that runs the bridge program. There was an increase of cost to have them run the program. Without that increase, we can't run the program, and we don't have staff that can take over that program.
Okay, thank you.
Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Is there a second? Alan, further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That's everybody. Thank you. Moving on. I-2, Park Advisory Commission resolution on an FY fiscal year 18-19 proposed budget and budget plan for parks and rec services and park operations. Josh?
Just discussion, that was.
Yeah, that's basically everything. Is there further discussion or a motion?
I'll move it.
Is there a second?
Second?
Steve, did you look like you wanted to say anything?
No, I'm
No.
just,
Oh, okay.
thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That's everyone. Thank you. Okay, moving on, item J, report from Parks and Rec Manager. Josh?
Just a few things to save my voice. Most importantly, we'll start with the fact that Colin is scheduled to be back tomorrow. He's getting much better, and we're looking forward to having him back around in the office, around the parks. So, in addition, the farmers market project has gone back out to bid, and just wanted to let everyone know that. And the bids are due back on May 9th. So hopefully we'll see some good news with those coming back. Weather outside is getting nicer. Gallup opened last weekend. However, the water in the river was high, so no river trips too fast. So river trips are not open at this point. Hopefully there'll be less rain and more sunshine over the next little bit. So when Argo opens on April 29th, we'll be able to get people through the river. And then one other thing that we had talked about recently, boat lockers at Vandermeer. Those are scheduled, they're in construction right now, should be opened in the next couple weeks. And we'll get the application process going for people to rent those lockers out coming soon. And that is all that I have.
Thank you. Report from the Parks and Rec Advisory Commission. Ruth, is there a report?
Well, our meeting that was supposed to be last week got moved because of Passover to tonight. But I'm curious, they sent out a survey about adult rec and ed offerings. I just realized I got it. I don't know if it went out generally. Did anybody else here get this? Okay, I'll ask about that tonight. Maybe we should send it out to the Parks Commission too. So, not much to report.
Okay. Thank you. There are no reports from relevant commissions and committees. Public item M, public commentary. Is there any member of the public that would like to speak? Please, sir. Step up to the microphone and introduce yourself.
Hello, everybody. My name is Edward Bostic, and I'm here because I'm concerned about the maintenance and the safety at West Park. You know that we have a Project Grow down here, and I have a lot of garden beds up on the top where the baseball diamond is. Those are never maintained by the maintenance department or whatever. I wish that we could get them cut so it could be safe for the kids and everybody else to go around and maintain the beds. Last year when I was down there, I saw 2 or 3 kids almost get ran over by a car playing basketball, because the basketball comes running out into the street where the cars are parked, right up close to where the basketball court is at. There's no fence on the side where the cars are. So any time a loose ball goes, it's going into the parking lot and it rolls downhill to the drains and everything else there. I would like to see a fence up there. The playground area is poorly maintained. There's not enough wood chips. There's been broken tire swings there for the last couple of years. There are emerald ash boring trees that constantly fall, all on Avalon housing side of Miller right there, backhand side. These trees are dead. I was told last year when 2 trees fell there that they were going to take those trees down. Those trees are still up. Eventually, there's going to be an accident at this park, and then what? I would love to see somebody put some time and some effort into upgrading the equipment at West Park and do some maintenance for the garden area, maybe put some benches down there, because there's a lot of activity there. There are a lot of children in the area. I do live at Avalon Housing. There are a lot of kids there. There's an open gate now leading into West Park where all these dead trees are at. Okay, and there's a bunch of little kids there, and I think somebody should really take a look at it. So my point of being here is to ask for your help in seeing something done about this park. It's a beautiful park. It just needs to be upgraded.
Thank you, and if you might sign in and leave some contact info, that would
I
help us.
would love to. I would love to.
Awesome, thank you, sir.
On this paper here?
Yeah.
Okay, thank
Any
you.
other member of the public? Seeing none, we stand adjourned. Thank you, everybody.